everybody on the internet is complaining. So September 1st, Rolex issued updates to their lineup of submariners, skydwellers, Datejusts, Oyster Perpetuals. So we'll start with the one that you're probably most interested in, and that's the Submariner. It's the one everybody's talking about. If you just type in Rolex Submariner right now on YouTube, you'll be flooded with videos mostly complaining about the new issue of the Rolex Sub. So there was a lot of hype about this watch, and my Instagram at least was flooded with photoshopped images of like leaks or what people would have wanted to see out of the new Rolex Sub in terms of colors and things like that. So many combinations. There were purples, there were greens, there were yellows, there were new cokes, like all that stuff. So they're proud to announce that the biggest change that they brought to the table was a 1mm change in case size. So the last Sub was already big enough. I don't own a Sub. I've never actually owned a Sub. All I own is a 36mm Oyster Perpetual. So I do know something about how the Oyster case fits on the wrist. And I can tell you that the Oyster case is very substantial. It wears larger than what it is. My 36 wears like a 38 to 39, which to me is just as big as they should get. It's perfect. So upgrading the size of the new Sub wasn't exactly the best move in my opinion. They did slim down the lugs, but I doubt it's going to compensate for the larger wear of the new Sub 41mm case. And I mean, it's not like they didn't have complaints about the watch being too big or too bulky. They were flooded with videos online of the last Sub just being way too large, way too thick, and just not as appealing as the older, slimmer, more classically designed Sub. So as far as technical specs, Rolex has now presented us with this information on their website. The new generation Submariner and Submariner Date models are equipped respectively with the caliber 3230 unveiled in 2020 and the caliber 3235. Self-winding mechanical movements entirely developed and manufactured by Rolex. There's nothing new there. Their architecture, manufacturing, and innovative features make them singularly precise and reliable. They are fitted with the exclusive blue parachrome hairspring that is up to 10 times more precise than a traditional hairspring in case of shocks. This is, I guess, somewhat big news. If you look at an image of the new movement, you're going to see that the hairspring is now a blued color versus the older design of hairsprings, and supposedly now it's more resistant to shock. Both movements, power reserve, extend to approximately 70 hours. This is another of the new updates for this model. 70-hour power reserve, which is great. But to be honest, an increase in the power reserve shouldn't exactly be a shock. The Tudor movements and the newer black bays have had 70-hour power reserves for years now. It doesn't happen so much these days with Rolex and Tudor being more and more detached as sister companies. But back in the day, what Rolex would do is if they wanted to try something new, they would try it out in the Tudor market first, being their cheaper alternative to the Rolex name. They would try it out in the Tudor market, see how the general public responds to that. And then if they got the green light from that, they would now transfer that innovation to the Rolex lineup, which obviously being more expensive and more prestige. They're not exactly doing that these days, but I think on some level they are still kind of watching to see what the Tudor fans are liking, because typically people who buy Tudors are also going to be interested in some kind of Rolex, at least at some point in their watch collecting lives. They've also brought some new colors or color combinations to the table, which to be honest completely disappointed me. There's the 126619B, which is a black dial with a blue bezel. It's available in white gold. This is supposed to replace the Smurf watch. If you guys know it, it's a blue dial and blue bezel watch, also in white gold. To me, it's just a more boring color combination. I don't know why they had to get rid of that. And they've done the same thing with the Hulk, which is the green dial and green bezel combination. So there's the 126610LV, which is now a black dial with a green bezel. And this is the one that's supposed to replace the Hulk, because the Hulk and the Smurf have been discontinued. So the blue dial, blue bezel, the green dial, green bezel have both been replaced with black dials for both of them. So now there's a black dial, blue bezel, there's a black dial, green bezel. To me, you've just made the watch even more boring. I don't know why you had to get rid of those original watches to begin with. They were fan favorites. Everybody talked about the Smurf. Everybody talked about the Hulk. The Hulk was just that one watch. You know, it's the green money Rolex. Everybody who associates green with money, and this is the Rolex that just kind of like had a flashy sunburst green color to the dial. I don't know why they replaced it with a bland black, you know, sports style. I understand black is versatile and all, but I think Rolex is now going in the direction of having way too many black dialed basic watches. I think at this point it's just becoming a bit more bland on their part, and they're kind of lacking creativity and imagination, in my opinion. Okay, so where was I? Yeah, so one thing I was going to mention about these color combinations, it's not like I couldn't get a blue bezeled black dialed watch or even a green bezeled black dial watch from Tudor. Again, I keep bringing it back to Tudor because that's, to me, it's a good reference point for Rolex. The black dial blue bezel Black Bay has been out for years now. I could have had this color combination for so long. And same thing with the green one. Tudor had the more limited edition, Harrods edition, I think it was called, their own Kermit, the black dial and green bezel. And again, if I wanted that color combination, I could have just looked at Tudor. I don't see why Rolex having to bring something new to the table. They've just now brought something that I could have already gotten in their cheaper lineup for a fraction of the price. Like what? Okay, so let's move on to the Sky Dweller. This is probably the most disappointing of all for me. The only thing they've really brought forth now is the Sky Dweller is now available on a rubber band called the Oyster Flex bracelet or the Oyster Flex strap. That's it.
Watch companies. Changing the bracelet does not mean you've created a new watch. I can do the bracelet myself.
I'm calm. I'm good. Okay, so moving on from a rubber strap that nobody cares about, the Oyster Perpetual. This is now the only place I think Rolex has had some kind of innovation or creativity. There's now a million different colors on the Oyster Perpetual line. There's yellows, there's greens, there's teals, there's pinks. It's not like these colors weren't previously available with Rolex, but it's nice to see that they are at least thinking in the right way, because the Oyster Perpetual was kind of that one watch collection type watch that Rolex offers. If you were to buy one Rolex as one luxury watch to have forever, an Oyster Perpetual is probably the best example of a watch you could have. It's both classy, it's both sporty, it's tough. You got great water resistance, you can take it everywhere. It's a perfect one watch collection. And what's even better is that now that they've recognized that this one watch collection is actually a thing with people, they've now decided to give you the option of all the colors that you might want to give you that perfect color for your one watch collection. So for that one, good job Rolex. So the only thing that bugs me is the fact that knowing Rolex, they're gonna limit the supply of these watches, as they always do, because it keeps the value up, which means people are still gonna want them even though they're not great new watches. Like, don't get me wrong, they're still Rolexes, they're still horological perfection, but it's just not what we've known Rolex to be in the past. Like, we're talking about a company that for decades has brought new things to the table, new technologies, new designs. Just, they've always been at the front lines of what the horological perfection has been and will continue to be. So for them to pull moves like they did this September, it's not exactly worthy of their Rolex name, in my opinion. So I think they could have done way better. I think most people in the watch world are pretty disappointed with these releases. I think you'd be hard pressed to find a video on YouTube with people giving positive reviews on what Rolex has done. To be honest, I think my video is probably one of the most positive ones that's on YouTube right now from what I've seen. But you know what, guys, I'm super curious to know your opinions on the new Rolex releases. If you guys like them, if you guys hate them, which models stand out to you, if you guys think Rolex is headed in the wrong direction. You guys do give me some very valuable commentary in the comments. So guys, please let me know what you guys think of this release. At the same time, guys, please leave me a like, subscribe down below, and join the movement. Until next time, stay safe.